this video, we're going to be comparing the two cameras together, both the FX3 and the FX2, with the FX3 being the king of reliability and the FX2 being a camera that's fundamentally confusing, at least from the perspective of someone that's used an FX3 for a very long time. And that was all shot on the FX3. Now, I've got the FX2 for a very short time, and there are a few things that I am very interested about when it comes to this camera. Let's get into the specs. Number one, this is of course a 33 megapixel full frame sensor, borrowing it very much from the A7 IV and the A7C II. You do have the Bion's X AI processor inside of here that gives you a few extra little things. For example, the auto reframing that I'm using right now, and then also some of the autofocus capabilities. You can do just a little bit more with this camera, essentially. You do have 4K inside of the camera. It does do 4K 60. This 4K 60 is, however, cropped, where on the FX3 it is, of course, not cropped. In here, you, of course, do have a very compact design for what you get here. You've essentially got a FX3 that has a viewfinder with the same specs of an A7C II. It does have a very durable and very rugged feeling build, and there are a few differences between the actual cameras. A lot of the button layout has been changed around, mainly because of that viewfinder that's been put in, and then some of the ports on the side have actually changed the position they were before. The ports in which I find just a little bit weird to where they've put them is the mic in and the headphones out port on the side of the camera. Only thing to mention here on this part is where the HDMI is actually located, which is on the side of the camera just near the top plate. The FX2 viewfinder is of course the same one that we see in the A7 IV, which is the 3.68 million dot OLED electronic viewfinder, and I must admit, it was actually really pleasing to look through whilst framing out shots and taking photos. This is actually a tiltable viewfinder here, allowing you to change the angle where you actually see the footage from. When you use the optional XLR handle, it does actually just skim the side of it. It's a bit uncomfortable to use when you're looking down at it with the top handle on, but it is still usable, and you know, that is good to a certain extent. When looking at the back of the camera, when the screen is all the way out, you can actually see they've added a lot more fans here. There's only two other points to make on the body right now. One is that there are two screws at the bottom to make sure it's as secure as possible, and then the other is that it has two SD card slots. Only one of them is a multi-input that allows you to put Type A in as well. Of course, with this, unlike the A7C II, you do actually have your tally lights, so I can see on top of the camera when I'm actually filming, which is actually super useful. The other thing that I think I do like when it comes to actually what's inside of the camera is of course the AI reframing. I think it's a very useful tool if you want to make the videos just a little bit more engaging, because it just adds that little bit extra kind of movement to an otherwise static shot. Let's talk about the actual two cameras themselves. Now, I'm a big proponent of the FX3. It's a camera that if I was to go into the depths of hell to film a promo video for something like a club, or, you know, a lot of dark, moody situations, and you need to make sure you actually grab the footage as much as possible, the FX3 is king here. Full stop. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but the thing the FX3 is missing is good photo quality. Although for most situations it's fine, and this is a photo compared to the XE5 that I took at the Gem Festival, just to have a more accurate comparison in this situation. And I asked a lot of the content creators there what their dream camera actually was, and the FX3 had been mentioned more than once, and a lot of them actually shot the FX3 there at the show. And something that I didn't necessarily like with the A7C II, it didn't necessarily feel super sturdy, and also the sensor readout was just a little bit too slow. which is something that isn't changed here, because like I said, it's pretty much got the internals of an A7C II. So if you shake the camera vigorously, things do start to become a little bit jello. But is that super important? I don't really believe so, because if you stop and get the shots that you'd usually do, this isn't going to affect it. For high-speed sports, and maybe even to a certain extent like high-speed events, maybe this is going to be a problem that you've come into. However, with that, this camera actually has a very capable photo capability as well, and although the FX3 did produce some really nice images, you do end up not having the sharpness and the clarity of what you would essentially get out of an A7 IV or an A7C II. So that 33 megapixel sensor is interesting, and of course you do have that. You do actually have that advanced AI chip inside of there for the autofocus as well. So the autofocus is, Sony's famed autofocus is super reliable, always on point, and you never need to really worry about it. And it's something which the FX3 did have to a certain extent. It didn't have the AI one, but it had very reliable autofocus, and so does this. So that's actually quite nice. So the real key differences between these two cameras, of course, this has a 33 megapixel sensor, the FX2, and then the FX3, of course, has a 12 megapixel sensor. Those pixels, however, are a lot larger, allowing you to have a dual ISO base that is actually reliable no matter where you put it. And that's 800 to 12,800. The dual ISO for the FX2 is 640 and then 4,000. In very dark situations, for example when you're shooting a live event that goes into the night, you can't necessarily push the camera too far unless you have super low light lenses at like f1.2. This does do 120 frames a second, however it is just in HD, whilst the FX3 does 4K at 120 frames a second at that full frame, which again allows you to get some really crazy looking shots. And then, although HD is still pretty good for this, I pretty much have relied on HD 120p in the past, and I can't really fault it. It is overall just a nice frame rate to shoot when you're trying to get some action or some smooth slow motion, essentially. Something that I don't really necessarily understand here is really the pricing. It's a really decent price for a relatively capable camera, and the FX2 coming in at £2,699, which is really good. But when you're looking for a professional camera that gives you everything you really want, you want those XLR inputs, and it is optional when it comes to the package. Now let's have a look at the FX3 price, which comes in with the handle at £3,599. Which means if you do the math when finding the actual handle price, which is £679, the cost of the FX2 with the handle is £3,149, which means there is only £350 difference between the two. Now, if you wanted a truly reliable camera, you're most likely going to pick the FX3. But if budget's more of a constraint, the FX30 with the handlebar is just £1,945. Now, that is for people that are looking for a professional, full-blown camera with the ability to use XLR inputs. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is the audience for this camera.
Dream camera, probably, I'd like to go to Sony FX3.
And for that, I really come back to the jobs that I've done recently. For example, Gemfest, when I was part of the media team, they all said they pretty much had the FX3 as their dream camera, but a lot of them were hybrid shooters. And is the photo capability of this camera so much better? Now, that being said, 12 megapixels can take some really great photos. I even took some photos in Turkey on the FX3 that I was actually really happy with. But is it something that is absolutely needed to be super high? Is 33 megapixels too much, or is 33 megapixels the minimum that you want to take a photo with? That's really up to you and what your opinion of higher megapixel camera is. To a certain extent, I can actually see this camera being very useful for events coverage. I think what we have here is a camera which is kind of bogged down because it's another iteration of a camera that has already been, the A7C II. It's a really cool kind of like setup all in all. The ergonomics are absolutely fantastic. But again, there are a few things here which don't make too much sense. And then coming into that again, the auto reframing mode, it's actually something that would actually be super useful for people that are shooting vlogs for themselves. It allows you to get something just a little bit different, and you know, making these standing static shots move and interact, just something just in a way that's a little bit better, maybe. I don't know. Put a comment in down below if you think this is something that would actually be useful to you. Of course, this works by basically cropping in the image and moving that around with the tracking from the AI chip inside, and basically making the shot a little bit more dynamic. It will zoom out and zoom in depending on where I go, and try and keep me relatively centered in the frame, and it reacts pretty well overall. So the FX2 is just a little bit heavier, with the FX3 weighing in at around about 718 grams, and then the FX2 weighing 1.1 kilograms, which again is what you're really expecting here for a camera that is ultimately got something else attached to it. The other thing to note when it comes to the body is you've actually got 2 screws down the bottom of the camera, which actually makes it a lot better for things like gimbal use. Something that happens quite a lot on gimbals is you accidentally knock the camera out of keel with the actual way in which it functions on the gimbal. One of the best kind of least talked about features, I feel, is the stabilization here. What you actually have is the active image stabilization that is granted from the A7C II, and I will say it's actually really good. It even looks somewhat gimbal-like when comparing it to the 3 shots that I took here. One with active stabilization, one with dynamic active stabilization, and then one with just the general stabilization. Comparing this to what the FX3 has, it's not quite as powerful. So in this retrospect, the FX2 actually comes out on top. Now, when it comes down to it, cutting out all of the spec talk and everything else in between, the 2 cameras are both really good at what they do. The FX3, I still think, remains one of the most reliable cameras on the market, especially because of that really great ISO range inside of it. This camera does have the benefit of having a switch over between photo and video mode, which is excellent. They seem to have got rid of S&Q here, which is, I think, is a little bit of a weird solution to it. So yeah, to conclude here, the 2 cameras are very separate but very identical also, and that sounds like a little bit of a loaded statement. You know what you're expecting here. It's why I'm not really going to be doing a look over the photos, because it's still a 33 megapixel sensor, still has great autofocus, doesn't have a massively great sensor readout, but it's a camera that is ultimately great for photo, and it can do great video also. Is it something that I was expecting from Sony? No, not really. I don't think it was really called for to have an FX2. But something I will say is that this camera, despite all of its kind of like weird makeup, has got me excited for what is to come next. I've often thought when it comes to the FX3 that it would be great to have a viewfinder on it, and I think it would be an absolute killer camera. In fact, I've remarked upon when it comes to talking cameras with friends of mine that the A7S III is not going to come out because the FX3 is just going to have that viewfinder. Now, I don't know if I can necessarily say that because Sony released so many versions of the same camera, but what we have here is a very exciting kind of trailer for the FX3 Mark II. But in this camera, I think there are some very real capabilities that I think are going to be useful for certain types of shooters. I think if you're a professional videographer, you might as well spend that extra 200 quid to get that FX3 with the top handle, because you do get a much more reliable camera overall, but you don't get a camera that is perfect for photography. Now, I've done photography with the FX3 and it does a relatively good image, but it's not perfect. It doesn't give you any leeway. This gives you a little bit of leeway. It gives you a camera that actually, for its base components, is actually really good, and Sony has found success in this field, of course, by re-releasing cameras that have been out already, and overall their cameras are pretty excellent. But what I'd really like to hear, and if Sony are watching this, I'd really like to see something new come out. Something with maybe, you know, just talking about an FX3 too. I'd really like to see some specs similar to the C80, where you've got, you know, the ability to shoot 6K inside of the camera, and you've also got 4K 240, you know, you can shoot RAW inside the camera, an SDI output, having that EVF on the side, the 2 screw points, I think is actually a really good move here. And you can see that this is what a kind of like a vision for the camera is going to be in the future. And I think the FX3 II would also have like a 24 megapixel sensor to keep those pixels relatively large, but still keep that dual ISO, still keep it a very reliable camera. So, in short, I am very excited for what is to come, because the FX3 for me, I think, is a camera that is just all round one of the best and most reliable cameras you can buy for your money. What do I think about the FX2? It's an A7C II in a cinema format, and if I was to get a setup, thank you. If I was to get a setup for photo and video, perhaps I would even consider getting them together, because I know this can do photo, but it can also handle sort of like the workflow of video with having all the like mounting points to it and all of the, you know, inputs that you want on the camera. But is it pretending to be something it's not? Is it needing to be something that I don't think it quite is? That's really a question for you, and I'd like to see it in down below. I'm trying to do a few more comparisons these days, and I think this one was the most interesting one for me. And I'd really like to know your opinion. Are you team FX3 or team FX2? And, well, I don't know how that's going to go. If you like this video, please like, follow, subscribe if you want to see more. Have a good day, and make sure you keep shooting, because photography and videography are some of the best things to do with your time, and a hell of a lot of fun.